Covert narcissists, well, they don't exactly announce themselves with arrogance, do they?
No, definitely not.
Right. They don't demand the spotlight, and they certainly don't, kick the door down. Instead, they trap you with this carefully calculated performance of sensitivity.
Sensitivity, introversion, and frankly, victimhood.
Exactly, victimhood. They slip right past your emotional defenses because they look exactly like someone who just, well, needs your help.
Welcome to The Debate.
Yes, welcome. Today we are digging into something incredibly insidious. We're decoding the hidden predatory world of covert narcissism.
And I'm approaching this strictly from the perspective of behavioral profiling. My focus here is squarely on exposing the calculated predatory methodology of the covert narcissist.
Which is a dark place to go for sure. It is. But we have to dissect exactly how they weaponize fragility, pity, and, passive aggression to systematically dismantle their target and consolidate power.
Right, and I come at it from a very different angle. In my practice as a trauma-informed therapist, my focus is really on the invisible, devastating emotional toll this abuse takes on the victim.
You see the aftermath.
I do. And honestly, analyzing the abuser's playbook is, well, it's secondary to understanding the epistemic destruction of the target. We really need to look at how this dynamic systematically destroys a person's reality.
Even if they don't leave bruises.
Exactly. It creates these severe neurobiological trauma bonds, and it leaves brilliant, highly capable people just walking on eggshells for years.
Well, to set the table here, I argue that covert narcissism is fundamentally a highly sophisticated system of predatory control.
Uh-huh.
Unlike the overt narcissists, the ones who demand admiration through sheer, loud dominance and grandiosity, covert narcissists operate from a highly calibrated false self.
The mask.
Right, the mask. And this false self is intentionally cloaked in anxiety, introversion, or even apparent depression. They are actively harvesting the victim's insecurities.
It's just so damaging.
It really is. They collect these empathetic triggers so they can weaponize that exact data later on. If we don't understand the mechanics of this predation, we just leave people entirely defenseless.
I hear that, but I'm sorry, I just don't buy that the predator's methodology is the most critical piece of the puzzle here.
Really? Why not?
Well, let me tell you why. When you focus solely on their tactics, you sort of miss the true horror of covert narcissism, which is, what happens inside the victim's mind.
The psychological toll.
Yes, the defining feature of this abuse is epistemic destruction. If you only look at what the narcissist is doing, you're missing the fact that the victim is literally losing their ability to trust their own memory.
They stop trusting their own perception, yeah?
Exactly. This leads to a profound psychological paralysis. If we don't center the victim's neurobiological and cognitive reality, we cannot actually help them escape.
Okay, but if we only focus on the victim's trauma response, aren't we giving the abuser a bit of a free pass on their malicious intent?
I wouldn't say a free pass, no.
But if you don't expose the mechanics of the trap, you can't prevent someone from stepping into it in the first place, right? Just think about how this dynamic actually begins.
The early dating phase.
Exactly. The way this trap is set is a masterclass in psychological manipulation. During the early dating phase, the covert narcissist, well, they don't brag about their wealth or their accomplishments.
They do the exact opposite.
Right. They engage in extreme mirroring and strategic trauma dumping. They share these deep, dark secrets about their supposedly abusive exes almost immediately.
This is exactly what trips victims up.
It really is.
They sit across the table on a second date and think, wow, this person is so emotionally available. They trust me so much.
And they feel special because of it.
Exactly. But from a trauma perspective, what is actually happening is the exploitation of the victim's fawn response.
Ah, the fawn response.
Yes, covert narcissists specifically target driven, highly empathetic people. Often, it's those who had to manage a parent's volatile emotional state in childhood.
So they're used to fixing things.
Right. The victim's nervous system is hardwired to associate effort, caretaking, and crisis management with connection and love.
I agree completely with the demographic they target, but look at the behavioral mechanism at play on the abuser side.
Okay, let's look at it.
I've always compared this to a virus, mimicking a healthy cell to bypass the host's immune system.
That's a terrifying analogy, but accurate.
An overt narcissist sets off alarm bells because their grandiosity is just a loud foreign invader. The immune system, which is the victim's boundaries, recognizes the threat and fights it off.
Right. They see the arrogance and they run.
Exactly. But the covert narcissist, they coat themselves in vulnerability. They mirror your core values, your obscure interests, your deepest wounds.
They become whatever you need them to be.
Yes, they present as this perfectly tailored soulmate. And wait, look at how they use pity in these early stages.
It's a hook.
It is entirely manufactured for leverage. They aren't sharing pain to connect with you. They are information harvesting.
Ugh, they're just gathering data.
Exactly. They are learning exactly what you fear most, say abandonment or feeling inadequate, so they can use it as a control lever down the line.
That is a very compelling way to frame the abuser's actions. But you have to consider that the victim isn't just being tricked cognitively.
You mean it's deeper than just a bad intellectual bet?
Much deeper. Their nervous system is being hijacked. When the covert narcissist trauma dumps, the victim's caretaking response floods their own brain with oxytocin.
The bonding hormone?
Exactly, the bonding hormone. They aren't just falling for a ruse. They are being biochemically conditioned to attach to this person.
So their body is literally working against them.
Yes, the victim genuinely believes they are building a safe, intimate foundation. But that foundation is rigged. They are entering a dynamic where their own empathy will be the exact padlock that keeps them trapped.
Trapped when the mask finally slips.
Right.
And that brings us to, honestly, the most insidious part. How they maintain control once that padlock clicks shut.
The shift in the relationship.
Yeah. Let's talk about how the trap springs. In profiling these individuals, one of the most striking patterns is how covert narcissists maintain absolute dominance without ever raising their voice.
It's chilling.
They don't need to yell. They do this by continuously rewriting the relational ledger through the martyr complex.
Ugh, the constant victimhood. It's exhausting just to witness.
Exactly. When a victim asserts a boundary, or, simply asks for a basic need to be met, the covert narcissist doesn't explode in rage.
They implode.
Right. They play the ultimate victim. You ask them to take out the trash, or you mention that a comment they made hurt your feelings, and suddenly they visibly shrink.
Right, the shoulders drop, the heavy sigh.
Yeah, they look utterly defeated and say something like, well, I guess nothing I do is ever good enough for you. I try so hard, but I'm just a terrible partner.
It's so manipulative.
That's not depression. That's weaponized guilt. It is a highly calculated move to evade accountability and force the victim to drop their boundary.
And comfort the abuser instead.
Exactly.
The emotional toll of that exact maneuver is just devastating. This is what we call ambient devaluation.
Ambient devaluation. I like that term.
It's not the overt abuse of someone calling you worthless. It's a slow, creeping erosion of your self-concept. Let's ground this in a real Tuesday night scenario, right?
Sure.
You're cooking dinner together, you accidentally drop a plate and it shatters. An overt narcissist might yell at you for being clumsy.
They'd blow up.
Exactly. But the covert narcissist, they don't yell. They just sigh heavily, look away, slowly grab the broom, and whisper, "Of course, I'll just clean it up, like I always do."
Right. It's the micro-insult.
Yes, a micro-insult. And because the narcissist is using disappointment rather than explosive rage, the victim experiences intense cognitive dissonance.
Because the abuser looks so pathetic in that moment.
Exactly. They are holding two conflicting realities at the exact same time. This person is so fragile, and I love them, and this person is constantly making me feel terrible.
That's a mental trap.
It leads to nested cognitive dissonance. It's a doubt within a doubt. The victim doesn't just question the abuser, they question their own questioning.
Like, am I the crazy one?
Right. They think, am I being abusive for thinking they are manipulating me? They're just depressed. I must be the problem. If I were just more understanding, they wouldn't be so hurt.
Whew. I hear that. And, it's a tragic reality for the victim. But I would frame the causality a bit differently here.
How so?
Well, the victim internalizes the blame because the covert narcissist is actively executing a strategy of passive oppression to make reality unstable.
They are certainly setting the stage for it, yes.
Right. They effectively make it emotionally dangerous for the victim to ever advocate for themselves. It secures total control over the relationship's dynamic. The abuser is building a cage out of their own supposed fragility.
I agree, but the brilliance of that cage, if you can stomach calling it brilliant, is that it induces what researcher Jennifer Freyd calls betrayal blindness.
Betrayal blindness, meaning they literally can't see the abuse?
Exactly. The victim unconsciously suppresses their awareness of the abuse. Why? Because fully acknowledging that the person they love is intentionally manipulating them would threaten the attachment.
And they need that attachment.
Their nervous system relies on it for literal survival at this point. When the narcissist plays the martyr, the victim's prefrontal cortex, the logical part of the brain, is physically suppressed by the stress of the conflict.
So logic just goes out the window.
Completely. Their brain chooses attachment over truth. They literally cannot see a manipulator. Their biology forces them to see a wounded partner who desperately needs them.
I'm a bit skeptical of leaning too heavily on betrayal blindness, honestly,
Why is that?
because I worry it slightly obscures the active malice of the abuser. Let's look at what happens when the victim's prefrontal cortex does kick in.
When they finally wake up.
Right. What happens when the victim doesn't immediately back down? When they set a firm boundary and stop apologizing?
Things get very cold.
Exactly. That's when the false fragility drops, and we see the most punitive tool in their arsenal, the silent treatment.
Yes.
This isn't just a partner needing space to cool off, you know? This is punitive absence. The covert narcissist withdraws warmth, eye contact, and basic verbal acknowledgement to punish the target.
It is brutal.
And from a profiling standpoint, it is the perfect crime. Why? Because it provides absolute plausible deniability.
I completely agree on the severity of the silent treatment. It is one of the most damaging things you can do to a human being.
It really is.
But again, the mechanism of its immense power lies in the victim's physiology. When that warmth is suddenly withdrawn, it's not just a psychological puzzle to solve.
Right, it's a physical reaction.
It is a physiological crisis. The silent treatment spikes the victim's cortisol levels. They are thrown into a state of chronic hypervigilance.
They're just constantly on edge.
Exactly. Their digestion shuts down, their sleep fractures. They are scanning the environment, desperately trying to decode the narcissist's silence. Every slammed cabinet or heavy footstep feels like a massive threat.
Exactly. And the narcissist knows exactly what they are doing. They know you cannot fight a vacuum.
You really can't.
If someone is yelling at you, you can argue back. You can point out the flaws in their logic. If someone is physically aggressive, you can leave or call for help.
Right.
But how do you defend yourself against someone who is just quietly reading a book on the couch, refusing to look at you, acting as if you simply do not exist?
You can't fight it.
No, you can only chase it. You are forced to pursue them, modify your behavior, and essentially beg for the relationship to return to baseline. Control through absence is incredibly effective.
And think about what happens when that vacuum is finally broken.
The relief.
Yes.
When the narcissist decides the victim has suffered enough and returns to warmth, maybe just by asking, "How was your day?" in a normal tone, the victim experiences a massive dopamine spike. A hit of the drug.
Exactly. This is intermittent reinforcement. It is the exact same neurochemical mechanism that creates gambling addictions.
Wow.
It's like pulling the lever on a slot machine for 48 hours straight, and when it finally lines up, the payout is just basic human decency.
Just normal behavior.
Right. That return of affection, experienced against the backdrop of cortisol-drenched distress, produces a relief so intense it registers as euphoria.
So they get addicted to the cycle.
The victim is neurochemically conditioned to crave the exact person who is destroying them. This is why I always say you can't just think your way out of this abuse. The biology has to be addressed.
Which makes the escape phase so perilous, right? And why understanding the abuser's playbook is vital for survival.
The aftermath is definitely dangerous.
Let's look at the aftermath. What happens when the victim finally tries to break the cycle and leave? In my experience profiling these cases, the covert narcissist categorically refuses to give closure.
Never.
No, because to them, closure represents a definitive end, which means a loss of leverage. Even post-breakup, they use strategic disappearances and proxy behavior.
The hovering.
Yeah. They'll use burner accounts to view the victim's social media stories. They'll send vague, anonymous messages or leave a singular item on the victim's porch months later.
Just to show they are still there.
Exactly. It's a low-effort intrusion meant to maintain indirect proximity and keep the victim completely destabilized.
It's meant to reactivate the trauma bond. It requires absolutely no vulnerability or accountability on the narcissist's part.
None at all.
But it sends the victim's nervous system right back into fight or flight. And because they withhold closure, the victim is left trapped in an open loop.
Constantly ruminating.
Right, constantly rehashing the relationship, wondering if they made a mistake. This is where the victim has to prioritize absolute self-preservation over resolution.
Because they'll never get the resolution from the abuser.
You will never get the apology, and waiting for it will quite literally kill you. In therapy, this is where we introduce the gray rock method as the ultimate defense for the victim's sanity.
I've always found the gray rock method fascinating from a behavioral containment perspective. You are essentially starving the predator of their food source.
Exactly. The victim must become as uninteresting, predictable, and emotionally flat as a gray rock.
Just give them nothing.
Right. Narcissists feed on emotional reactions, what we call narcissistic supply. They genuinely don't care if you are crying, screaming, defending yourself, or begging.
It's all the same to them.
To them, your emotional dysregulation is proof that they still have power over you. By going gray rock, you cut off that supply at the source. We teach the Jades technique.
Remind everyone what that stands for.
Never justify, argue, defend, or explain yourself to them.
Because doing any of those things just gives them data.
Precisely. It gives them something to twist. It is incredibly difficult to do because your nervous system is screaming at you to fix the misunderstanding, you know?
To prove you weren't the crazy one.
Right, to prove you aren't the bad guy they are painting you to be. But it is not about winning the argument. It is about protecting your emotional baseline from further hijack.
And from a tactical standpoint, it completely neutralizes their plausible deniability.
How so?
Well, if you aren't reacting, their subtle micro-insults, their heavy sighs, their weaponized guilt trips, they all just fall flat.
Ah, I see.
Like a shark that eventually swims away from a non-thrashing object, the covert narcissist gets bored and just moves on to an easier target.
That's the hope. But, even when the narcissist is gone, the damage remains.
Absolutely. Well, let's pull back and look at the broader picture here as we summarize our positions.
Sounds good?
From my perspective, understanding covert narcissism demands that we see it for what it is, a deeply predatory framework built on plausible deniability.
Right.
The covert narcissist weaponizes vulnerability, uses silence as a weapon of mass psychological destruction, and maintains control by rewriting reality so they are always the victim. If we don't expose this dark methodology, if we don't dissect the exact ways they harvest information and manufacture guilt, people will continue to mistake their highly calculated manipulation for genuine human fragility.
They will.
We have to map the trap.
And while I absolutely acknowledge the precision and, quite frankly, the malice of their tactics, I maintain that the true hallmark of this abuse is the internal psychological ruin of the victim.
The emotional fallout.
Yes. We can map the predator's movements all day long, but the most vital step to freedom is for the victim to reclaim their shattered reality.
Fair point.
Healing isn't just about outsmarting the narcissist or predicting their next move. It is about unwinding a deeply entrenched trauma bond. It's about regulating a hijacked nervous system and overcoming the profound nested cognitive dissonance that makes a brilliant person doubt their own mind.
The damage goes deep.
It does. The abuser sets the fire, yes, but we have to focus on treating the burns.
We may never fully agree on which lens is the primary key here, whether it's decoding the dark methodology of the abuser or treating the profound emotional and neurological toll on the victim.
Right. It's a complex puzzle.
But I think it is undeniable that understanding both halves of this equation is the only way to truly break this cycle of coercive control.
I completely agree. Listeners, we urge you to reflect on your own relationships and the dynamics of those around you.
pay attention to the quiet flags.
Yes, if you find yourself constantly apologizing to someone who claims to be the victim while simultaneously holding all the power in the room, take a step back. There is so much more to uncover about the subtle, quiet forms of control that often go entirely unnoticed in our culture.
If you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells, chronically confused, or addicted to the sparse moments of basic kindness from your partner or boss, remember our opening thought.
It's all about the mask.
Exactly. Sometimes the most dangerous virus doesn't attack the cell walls. It mimics a healthy cell, bypassing your immune system entirely by looking exactly like love. Thank you for listening. This has been The Debate.